In part one, we explored Nigeria's ancient discoveries, unusual geography, and extraordinary wildlife. But Nigeria's natural mysteries are only one part of its story. Long before Nollywood and Afrobeats reached global audiences, powerful kingdoms, trading cities, and influential women were already shaping the region. This is how centuries of history helped Nigeria become a modern cultural superpower. All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something truly massive, how a region built on ancient sovereign empires transformed into the global cultural megaphone we know. Today, we're going to trace this wild, fascinating timeline from centuries-old kingdoms all the way to the explosive creative economy that is literally taking the world by storm right now. But before we map out the present, we really have to pause and ask ourselves, how did this happen? How did a region known for ancient walled cities and coastal pepper farms turn into today's global cultural superpower? To truly grasp Nigeria's modern soft power, we can't just scroll through today's headlines. We have to look back and see how historic trade hubs and some seriously powerful matriarchs laid this unshakable foundation. So here is our roadmap for today. We're gonna cover 1. Ancient empires and warrior queens. 2. Kano, the historic trade hub. 3. Lagos from pepper farm to megacity. 4. Woven history looking at fashion evolution. And finally, Nollywood and global influence. Let's get into it, starting off with section 1, ancient empires and warrior queens. Now, in these centralized historical kingdoms, matriarchal authority took on some incredibly powerful yet very different forms. Up north, you have Queen Amina of Zazzau. She was an absolute force of nature when it came to military expansion, controlling trans-Saharan trade routes and building these massive Ganua Amina walls. Actually, you can still see the ruins of those fortresses today. Then if you look down south in the forest region, you've got Queen Idia of the Benin Kingdom. She wielded this immense political and spiritual influence, even deploying incredible military and reputedly magical tactics to save her kingdom during the Benin-Ida War. And just to put Queen Amina's military operation into perspective, the sheer scale is staggering. She commanded a standing army of 20,000 soldiers. With a force that size, she conquered neighboring house estates and secured some unbelievable tributes. Get this, the king of Nupe sent her 10,000 colonels and 40 eunuchs. That was literally the first tribute of its kind in house land. So her conquests weren't just for bragging rights. They gave Zazzau absolute lockdown control over highly lucrative trade routes. Meanwhile, down in the Benin Kingdom, power was institutionalized a bit differently. Oba Esiji actually created a brand new title specifically for his mother, Idia. It was called the Iyoba or Queen Mother, and the crucial takeaway here is that titles like Iyoba completely prove women weren't just hanging out in the background offering advice. No, they were central, highly influential figures in state administration. In fact, Idia's legacy was so profound that it officially ended this old brutal tradition of killing the Oba's mother, replacing it instead with a highly respected official office right there at the palace. Alright, moving to section 2, Kano, the historic trade hub. So Kano didn't just pop up as an empire overnight. It actually evolved from a small ironworking and farming settlement founded by Bagoda way back around 999 CE. But the massive turning point, that was the 14th century, when its rulers adopted Islam. This was a total game changer because it built immediate trust with Muslim merchants from afar and standardized their commerce using Islamic law. By the 15th century, the legendary Komi market was up and running. Kano weathered centuries of change, adapting even to the really jarring disruption when the British colonial forces arrived in 19.0.3, which forcibly shifted a lot of trade toward coastal ports and railways. But the sophistication of the Kurmi market, it's honestly mind-blowing. This wasn't just some haphazard bazaar. It was a highly regulated, well-oiled economic engine. You had market officials actively regulating weights, measures, quality, the whole shebang. Foreign merchants had their own dedicated trading houses, and Arabic became the go-to standardized language, which made record keeping super efficient. Plus, it was the ultimate networking hub for sharing vital political and commercial news. Kano's merchants were so adaptable that even after independence, they seamlessly blended all this traditional trade knowledge with modern banking. Let's shift gears to Section 3, Lagos Pepper Farm to Megacity. The growth of Lagos is just this incredible story of survival. It starts out as this marshy Awori fishing village, eventually becoming a tributary of the powerful Benin Empire. Then, during a monarchical feud in the 19th century, Lagos actually traded its sovereignty for British military backing and became a British colony when the northern and southern protectorates were amalgamated. In 1914, Lagos was crowned the colonial capital, a title had held right through Nigeria's hard-fought independence in 1960. It stayed the federal capital until 1991, when the seat of power was relocated to the planned city of Abuja. But here's the crazy part. Even after losing the capital title, Lagos just exploded into the most densely populated urban agglomeration on the entire African continent. Now, it's really essential to recognize that this kind of rapid, explosive growth came with some very complex internal struggles. Lagos's spatial history is deeply, deeply marked by segregation. I mean, the British literally carved a canal back in 1923 just to separate the Europeans' only Ikoyi quarter from the African areas. And unfortunately, that pattern of displacement didn't just magically stop with independence. Successive regimes have continuously cleared local settlements, like the infamous razing of Morocco in 1992, or the Makoko waterfront clearance in 2012, mostly to create exclusive enclaves in gated estates for the elites. Okay, let's look at Section 4, Woven History, Fashion Evolution. You know, Nigerian fashion has this incredible, almost superpower, like a ability to absorb external shocks, whether that's European colonialism or modern globalization, while completely preserving its cultural core. Just look at this transition. You go from pre-colonial natural dyes and those stunning Edo coral beads worn by Benin royalty to the colonial era, where they started fusing imported European prints with local creativity. Then boom, 1960 hits, independence arrives, and there's this massive revival of cultural pride featuring traditional Aso-Oke and the Grand Agbada. And today it's all about global anchor prints and superstar designers pushing eco-friendly luxury. Because fashion here isn't just about throwing on some clothes, it is a profound, loud declaration of identity and pride. What started as coral bead regalia for kings has totally evolved into a global phenomenon. Just think about the iconic Owambe parties. These aren't just your average gatherings, they are vibrant, over-the-top showcases of extravagant, coordinated family style. And today's youth, they're completely reinventing the rules, fearlessly blending traditional agbadas with a fresh pair of contemporary sneakers. Thanks to platforms like TikTok and Instagram, this aesthetic has confidently walked off local streets in straight on international runways. Finally, Section 5, Nollywood and Global Influence. What's absolutely vital to understand here is that Nollywood is doing so much more than just keeping us entertained. It started as this scrappy, super low budget, direct-to-video movement back in the early 90s, right? But today it is deliberately and masterfully reframed Nigeria's international image. It serves as an informal platform for cultural diplomacy, actively dismantling old, tired global stereotypes of instability and replacing them with these authentic, lived narratives of resilience, creativity, and social transformation. By projecting its unique stories on screens worldwide, Nollywood has effectively become the ultimate soft power tool. It acts as a global megaphone. We're talking reaching massive audiences from across Africa to Europe, North America, and the diaspora. But beyond that, it's a huge economic engine. It generates massive employment and stimulates cultural entrepreneurship, because when someone watches a Nollywood film, they aren't just consuming a story, they're seeing the latest Nigerian fashion, they're grooving to Afrobeats, they're craving Nigerian cuisine. It expands the country's market footprint into every single corner of the globe. And that brings us to the most exciting part of this entire journey. After a millennium of empire building by brilliant queens, the sheer mastery of trans-Saharan trade in Kano, the unshakable resilience of Lagos, and the artistic reinvention of its fashion and film on the world stage, you really have to wonder, as Nigeria's creative economy completely rebrands its global image, what boundary will this unstoppable cultural superpower break through next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep exploring.